Okay, so this is episode 3, the final episode in this short little series of tips and tricks for Madden franchise. If you remember back in episode 1, we started with a team that was 55 overall, and that was just basically a team of backups and roster fodder. And we added these guys from free agency, and this is about as good as you can do from the current free agents. There are a couple of pretty decent players like Eric Berry and Wilkerson, Nick Perry. So this is what we've got from free agents. Now you could play with this team, but we went ahead and if you look at episode 2, we simmed through the entire season, and we'll take a look at that team now. Which did not do so well. I think we ended up 1-15. But the good thing is we did get the #1 overall pick for the upcoming draft. So if we go down to when we moved to Brooklyn, we became the Barons. And so this is the team that we ended the season with. Now you can see that there are some upgrades. Jackson did become a 70 overall, so we improved a little. But most of these players are older, so they didn't go up that much. And so what we did at this stage was re-sign players. And if you go back and look at episode 2, you can see what we did is we re-signed every player at the end of the season for the minimum. So that's a really big tip here. Look at all these guys. Look how cheap everyone is. And then also there's no bonus. So you can re-sign everyone. And my self-imposed rule is I cannot trade anyone until they have played at least one season with the team. So if I pick somebody up as a free agent, I must play with that player. I can't just immediately trade them, which would be silly. So at least that gives me now a bunch of players that I can move on to the next stage, which is free agency. So we'll show what happened. So at the end of episode 2, we were at this point here where we were re-signing players. And now let's take a look at what we ended up with. So when you re-sign players, they're really attractive because they have very low salaries, very easy to trade. And because we're in the free agency period right now in week 1 or stage 1, teams are very vulnerable because they have holes in their lineup. So if you really want to exploit other teams, like look here, the Bears, their roster is currently 39 members on their team. So they obviously have some giant holes. I think if you go in here, you'll see that there are actually positions that they don't have anybody at. So look at their left guard is a 58. So that's pretty much nobody. And there's other positions that they have like nobody at all. So when you see a totally empty spot, this would be really vulnerable. If you have an extra strong safety that you want to trade to the Bears, they're pretty much willing to give up really good players to get, like, I think they feel desperate that they need somebody in that position. And somehow they're not realizing that they could just go out on free agency and pick up a strong safety, and they don't need to trade for one of my backup players, but that's what they did. And so I might as well use the system and try to make as good a team as I possibly can. So here's what we ended up with. We have pretty much all pros at every position. As you can see with this offensive line, I was able to trade and exploit team needs at every position here. Meredith is a holdover from last season. I was able to get Garoppolo, who I think is underrated. We should be able to get him up higher than 79, but we've got, Christian McCaffrey, A.J. Green. Defense was pretty good. Got a good defensive line. Good middle linebacker. Now I could use an upgrade at my second middle linebacker spot, but we got Von Miller, and probably a better cornerback, especially my number one corner would be important to get a better guy there, and maybe another free safety. But still, this is a really, compared to the 55 overall team that we started the year with, we definitely exploited a lot of things. Now what I can do now at this point is to go into free agency. This will be where I can probably upgrade my cornerback and another middle linebacker. There's certainly some players here that I can try to go after. I still have some cap room, 17.2 million, so that's a little bit. And I can certainly find some players here. Jason Verrett doesn't have any, and he'll be a slight upgrade for me, but I might even be able to get somebody else like Fuller. He does have one bid on him right now. But that would be a good number one. That would be great, actually, if I could add him to the team. So let's go and take a look real quick at what we actually did here, the transactions. And if you look at the kind of trades that we made, we just put together like 3 backup players at middle linebacker, halfback, and cornerback, as well as a 5th round. Oh, they also gave me that in order to get an upgrade at free safety. And you can see there's quite a few really favorable trades here. I was able to trade a backup strong safety for a good starting corner. One of my best trades here was for the tight end right here, for the starting tight end Ingram. I traded him basically straight up for a crap quarterback, which they needed. And so there's a lot of ways that you can exploit. I mean, Zach Martin for Robert Kimdichie and A.J. Derby. So that's pretty incredible if you think about it, be able to get Zach Martin for that kind of trade. So I went through and just one after another, I just did everything I could to get, I traded Clint Bowling back to the Bengals, who actually retired, to get A.J. Green, along with Dominic Easley, who I think has also at some point played for the Bengals. So a lot of exploitation. Now, if you want to put your self-imposed rule that you don't do this, I guess you could do that, but I mean, that is part of the game, is how can we make our team as good as possible. I would imagine EA will make an update at some point, but those are the main 2 things. If you can re-sign players at the end of the season for the minimum, they become valuable members of your team, or certainly you can use them to trade. And the other thing is trading during free agency. That's a really great time to, and it does happen in real life. I mean, we have seen players, Antonio Brown, for example, was traded during free agency. So it does occur in real life, so I don't see why we shouldn't be allowed to do that. And I don't know if EA will nerf this or not, but it's pretty incredible to be able to go from 55 overall to 84 overall in just one season. And I don't know why you wouldn't do this. So if you're playing franchise mode, you can make your team obviously as good or better than any other team out there. until they figure out some way to change this. So if you go back, if you want to see how it all started, go ahead and look at episode 1 and 2, and you can see how we were able to transform a team that basically had nothing. We uprooted from Buffalo, we went to Brooklyn, and we just redid the entire team and created an 84 overall with a 91 overall offense. And we still have more to go. We still have the free agency and the draft. I still have the number 1 overall pick, which I can use to trade down or possibly get some decent backups on the team. So that's it.